What's going on, everybody? GemMint here, back again with another omnibus review. This time it's an advanced review of the highly anticipated Moon Knight omnibus by Huston, Benson, and Hurwitz, mostly known for the David Finch artwork. Not only will we do a deep dive thorough review, I'll give you the price, the page count, and when you can expect this book to ship out. Before we get started, I do want to thank Marvel for sending the advanced copy. We appreciate it as always. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment before you leave, and let's jump into the overview. Alright guys, so here we have the DM variant for Moon Knight by Huston, Benson, and Hurwitz. Really should be called the David Finch Moon Knight Omnibus. He also did do the regular cover, so you could pick and choose which one. It does have 1,184 pages. Let's take a look at the spine. Nice looking spine here. More of a modern Moon Knight logo. And then we have the back, collecting Moon Knight issues 1 through 30. Then you have Moon Knight Annual 1, Moon Knight Silent Knight, Vengeance of the Moon issues 1 through 10, and then Shadowland Moon Knight 1 through 3, which is also collected in the Daredevil Shadowland Omnibus. Retails $125 with a release date of May 17th. The inside of the dust jacket, as usual, gives us a biography on Moon Knight and a biography on the creators as well, which there are many. And finally, the book itself has a beautiful wraparound cover with art by David Finch. So this book is very much a Moon Knight book. Love the black interior cover page here and the table of contents. So if you guys have been watching, I've been doing a lot more Omni reviews lately, and the table of contents is clutch because you can kind of break down your reading. You could read Moon Knight issues 1 through 8, which is all pencils by David Finch and essentially is the first 2 arcs. Then you can do 9 through 12, has Miko Suyan as the artist. Then you can just do, issue 13 and Annual 1 or what have you. And speaking of Moon Knight issue 1, here we have it. So this is the David Finch run. All those Moon Knight covers that you see, and going through the pages here, it just hits me so hard, like reading Image Spawn comics back in the early 90s. So it has Batman vibes, it has Spawn vibes. It's dark, gritty, and highly detailed, especially in the first 8 issues with the David Finch pencils. So we're in this world where Mark Spector has not been Moon Knight in quite some time. We're getting a flash forward scene here, and we're seeing him with his kind of Moon Knight plane, or whatever you want to call it. His relationship with Marlene, which is actually much different in this book than other Moon Knight runs that I've read. So we see him now as a broken man. I think it's been 2 years. He hasn't been talking with Khonshu. He hasn't been Moon Knight. He's been taking pills. And his supportive team, Frenchie, Ray, all these guys are still around, but they're kind of losing faith in him, like how he lost faith in Khonshu. Here we're on to issue 2, and again, the art, the tone, the atmosphere. And what we have here is a flashback to Moon Knight's greatest enemy, which is the Bushman. Now, Moon Knight eventually does kill the Bushman and takes off his face, removes his skin, and keeps it. So what's interesting throughout this run is that Khonshu speaks to him as Bushman. Like, no one else can see him but Moon Knight, and he's got like this ghost essentially following him, which is Khonshu. Here you can see the bloody face and just the detail that I'm talking about here. You got Crawley here, another one of the supporting cast who helps him with his medicine. And then we get introduced to the Profile. The Profile is a dope character. He can basically look at somebody and read them and understand their past, present, and what they'll probably do. So when he looks at someone, he can kind of, you see the words form around him. I like how they did that with the art. Nice double page spread here. Great artwork on this book. I think you're into this book more so for the artwork. This first, few arcs are cool to see the resurrection of Mark Spector for the second time, if you will, and how they go about it. I don't really want to give too much spoilers out on this one, but we find out this committee that we're seeing here on the left, they're the ones that get Mark Spector to take up the mantle of Moon Knight again, and they bring Taskmaster in to help do that. The real person pulling the strings, I'm going to leave that as a surprise for you guys in case you haven't read this yet. But here we have Khonshu disguised as Bushman. So if you're flipping through the pages with me, Bushman during this part of the omnibus is really just Khonshu, like I said. And then look at the artwork, the gory detail. Marlene walking in on Mark, ready to shoot himself. I love this panel here. It's like Khonshu taking on the form of the Bushman in his mind, but standing in front of his own statue, kind of giving himself his hood and his staff. Another big, huge double page spread. Taskmaster busting in on Mark Spector. This book's definitely going to give you guys a new appreciation for Moon Knight, for Taskmaster, if you guys haven't really been too much into the characters. This 2006-2007 storytelling and artwork. Love the kind of Batmanisms that we're getting here. It looks great. Paper stock is, pages are a little bit on the thin side. Not too bad. I really like how the majority of this book has black all the way to the pages. It looks really nice, and it really helps with the storytelling. Iron Man-isms here, or Batman too, walking around with all those costumes in his Batcave and his armory. This gave me 90s vibes too, throwing it to the horizontal double page spread. So for the majority of this book, we're dealing with Mark Spector, and he's got his butler, he's got his driver, Frenchie, if you will. Frenchie actually comes out as being gay with the trainer or physical therapist that's assigned to help Mark Spector get back to normal. They had that kind of whole plot line in here too. I thought it worked, man. I thought this was an interesting story. I loved Frenchie, this French guy. He's a badass. His relationship with Mark Spector, very much like an Alfred Bruce Wayne type of dynamic. Again, just take a look at the artwork here, man. Moon Knight dropping down, kind of has like the Watchmen feel to it. So here we have this killer who's trying to call out Moon Knight. He's leaving bodies on clocks with their limbs as the hands. Again, the artwork here, man. I could really just stop at so many pages and just look at the artwork with you guys. So here's Ray. Mark is trying to put his crew back together. That's the Lucius Fox, if you will, the mechanic. Here we get a little visit from Steve Rogers. So this does take place during the events of Civil War. So here we have Steve Rogers, not really trying to recruit Moon Knight. Maybe he's trying to test the water or who knows what. But then we do get an interaction, a lot more interaction with Iron Man in this omnibus as well. Boom. This double page spread is amazing. And then we have a little Punisher team up. So this is a new artist now with issue 9. And I love how Khonshu loves Punisher. And he kind of talks about Punisher to Mark in his ear. Like, why can't you be more like that Punisher boy? Not like that, but kind of like that. This couple was crazy. This man and woman, kind of cyborg, robot, super strong villains that play as the protagonists of this arc. Speaking of which, here we have Frank Castle, the Punisher, and the cyborg robot guy is the Clock serial killer. You get a little bit of Punisher here, but you also get him a little bit later in this book as well. So this is kind of where we see a little bit of the Moon Knight kind of hero, if you will, crime fighter. We're told that this guy beats his wife by the profiler and uses the belt as the weapon and kind of gets Mark Spector all worked up, so he's obviously going to pay that guy a visit later. Then here we have the introduction of Iron Man. So what's interesting is I recently read New Avengers. This takes place mostly before the events of New Avengers and during and post Civil War when Tony Stark becomes the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Again, Moon Knight jumping out of the ship. Awesome. Great art here, man. Gruesome, trying to rip out Moon Knight's spine. The profile gives me like Preacher vibes, right? Because Preacher can talk to you and make you do things, so it just gives me like a DC Vertigo vibe almost. So this is what the profiler sees as he's looking at Mark Spector. So here's really the superhero registration act stuff. Moon Knight is obviously a mass vigilante. He has to register and he has to be profiled to see if he'll even qualify. Now he's already got a history of being too violent and kind of doing Batfleck branding on his enemies and stuff. So the person conducting the interview is already made up their mind that Moon Knight is not going to make it, but Khonshu steps in, and let's just say somehow Moon Knight gets his superhero registration card, which becomes a problem when he's operating like how Moon Knight operates as a kind of public servant, if you will. The annual also kind of shows you how he's a hero and how these women are being attacked by this sexual predator, and it's really pretty realistic the way they kind of describe these scenes. So we get to see Moon Knight being a little bit more of a hero and less of just battling with his own multiple personalities. Same like with the Silent Night here. We have this Moon Knight story during Christmas, and it's more like a Batman feel to it. It gives you more of that being a vigilante out at night taking down bad guys. It shows Marlene like waiting for him to come back home and stuff, but then shows that their relationship is really just like a hooking up relationship, just kind of Wham bam, thank you ma'am, and then she's out of there. And that kind of happens throughout the book here. But it's interesting once we stop dealing with Mark Spector and we start dealing with Jake Lockley. Moving forward, we get a lot of good Arthur Sudan covers as well. And again, here we have just Moon Knight doing Moon Knight hero type stuff, fighting bad guys, throwing crescent moons at them. Now what's funny is that when he's fighting, Khonshu's in his ear, and Khonshu is immature, like how you see him in the Moon Knight show, and he just wants him to kill and spill blood for his god, for Khonshu, to basically honor and worship him, which plays a role basically throughout this entire omnibus. And this whole stuff again with Marlene and Mark, how they're kind of just hooking up. He wants more. She really just wants the physical attention. Then you have Khonshu messing with him, saying we can do better. Remember when we were with Tigra? That's a gruesome scene. And her coming back to only see Mark Spector holding Bushman's face in the mirror and putting it on his face as she walks in on him. So super awkward. Here's where we start to get the next big bad villain for Moon Knight, the Black Spectre. So he's going to be the protagonist for the next arc or so. I like the different dynamics that we see with his supporting cast too, with Ray or Frenchie, and how they'll fight and they'll break up and make up and like one big family. So what's funny is Iron Man's working out, trying to figure out again, where's the doctor that gave the clearance for Mark Spector, and he hung himself. He knew he was in big trouble. Now, Mark Spector was a former Avenger too, Avengers West Coast, so the interactions with him and Iron Man are great. Again, the Black Spectre character looks badass. The Black Spectre plays a big role in the final arc of this run because he has this plan with these nanites that will essentially wipe out the city. The only problem is the way that Moon Knight has to defuse the situation doesn't make it look good with him carrying a superhero registration card. Iron Man is pissed, but he actually did the right thing. The world never really knew that Moon Knight saved a lot of people that night. On to issue 20, the cover for the direct market version, this book. Even this interaction too, it really gives you that superhero Moon Knight type of look rather than just the crazy guy. This was cool, showing some Werewolf by Night action, how they're fighting kind of like lichens underground for sport for rich people. So this is more of a supernatural Moon Knight story, him breaking this up. They're experimenting on people, turning him into werewolves. And it has like a little detective nature to it as well, recruiting one of those YO gang members that were dressed up like clowns earlier, who was branded by Mark Spector, who's probably going to get killed in jail, and using that to recruit him. Then enter Norman Osborn. He's got the new Avengers at this point. Well, they're the Thunderbolts, but he's running them and they're sanctioned, and the Thunderbolts are the heroes, and some of the superheroes that didn't want to reveal their identities and go with the Accords have now become the villains. And he had a great fight scene between Moon Knight, who's dressed up in all black right now, and the Thunderbolts with Venom here. Loved this right here. They set Moon Knight up here for Venom to attack. That reminds me of like old school Venom. And this one is not up for question whether or not there is a Stephen Grant, whether or not there is a Moon Knight. Obviously, he does still have the money. He has the equipment and the gadgets because of Stephen Grant. Now, whether or not Khonshu is real, that's a different story. It's a street-level hero story. You know, we got to start bringing out Bullseye, right? So we also get Bullseye versus Moon Knight in this Omni. And it's actually the end of the Mark Spector arc in this book. This battle with Bullseye results in the death of Mark Spector and the re-emergence of Jake Lockley. And here's kind of the escape, right? Now, Jake Lockley, it's a little bit different than Mark Spector. In the book, and the tone starts to feel different as well. So that's where I felt like this superhero book started to go in that different direction, because you really got a different change of pace when Jake Lockley took over. This was a good story of somebody hired him. He took a merc job, even though he wasn't really trying to do that, to save this girl who's been abducted. She has a rich father. She's in Mexico. He goes to bust her out to take this job. This is where they're talking him into it. And it just doesn't end up being what it seems. It was great, man, with the two wrestling brothers and the interaction with the woman in question. Great little story. And with the end of that arc, that's going to end the run. And then we have another little run, Vengeance of the Moon Knight, which is about 10 issues or so. And this is all now run by Jake Lockley. And he is a little bit more brutal, but he has taken up the mantle of Moon Knight, and he's promised himself not to kill and do things the right way and be the hero that Moon Knight needs to be. So it's actually cool because the first half of the book, yeah, it's a Moon Knight book, but he's still operating with bloodiness and ruthlessness, but now he's brutal, but he's operating within the superhero means. Love it when Sentry shows up. It's like you got two crazy people dealing with each other, but you know, there wasn't really much going on here, just this one little issue with Sentry. Now, I mentioned Bushman in the beginning, right? So Bushman does get resurrected here during this volume, and we do get him as the big bad. So now when you see Bushman, it's no longer Khonshu in his head. Khonshu has taken the form of that beak that we know and love, but with a body. And we start getting some team-ups here. We do have Spider-Man show up. Towards the end, we'll show you some more where he's teaming up with Captain America or Punisher. Bushman's out, and he's putting together an army so he could take down Moon Knight. Just to give you an idea of the relationship between Khonshu and Moon Knight, he is in his head constantly telling him to kill the Bushman, to finish it. You will obey me. But again, Moon Knight here trying to do the hero thing, trying to do the right thing. See more team-ups, like I said. So this was like a Deadpool team-up. I believe it was a 2-issue thing. It was cool. I like this version of Deadpool. This was another kind of Moon Knight trying to save somebody, but not having all the facts, and maybe you're saving the wrong person. I like the art style here, and again, my type of Deadpool. He wasn't overly zany or slapstick. It was mercenary Deadpool actually getting caught trying to, you know, kill somebody on their deathbed in the hospital. So actually, it gives Moon Knight a chance to unleash a little bit and basically chop him up, since he's got a no killing rule, but Deadpool can't die. And here we are, just another team up with Spider-Man here, crash colliding in the air with him. And it's a team up battle against the Sandman. No big deal. Just kind of showing how Moon Knight interacts with other heroes. The Sandman story feels like it borrows heavily from the Spider-Man 3 movie, with him basically just trying to steal for his daughter. When we get the mission call from Captain America, and that's going to be the last issue before we get into the Shadowland miniseries. So basically just Captain America recruiting Moon Knight to be on this Avengers team for this mission, asks Moon Knight to dress in black. I like throughout this omnibus there's this theme of him saying why he dresses in white. He wants the enemies to see him coming. Yeah, so the last issue was no big deal. I mean, this big monster Avengers type of issue, and him being with the Avengers, I guess it's kind of fitting, like him finally fitting in. The Shadow Knight, the Moon Knight tie-ins, the 3 issues, was amazing. And I gotta be honest here, man, I have not read Shadowland, and reading this 3-issue series, I kind of want to bump that up, man, and read that next. I really dug it. Something's wrong with Daredevil. Moon Knight can see it in him, but I don't know enough about what's going on in the main story to really talk about it. I mean, the miniseries deals heavily with Moon Knight and his younger brother, who ends up becoming the Shadow Knight here. And a bunch of stuff happens. This last 3-issue arc was so crazy, with what happens to Marlene and her being attacked and her being pregnant, and this crazy brother versus brother final battle. This is what makes it feel like it's more of a Marvel event. But it doesn't feel all like that, like big epic battles. There's a lot of deep, dark, personal Moon Knight stuff in this miniseries that's definitely worth reading. See Marlene in the hospital here. Frenchie's looking over her. Jake Lockley has to have the final showdown with his brother. Now his brother, not to give too much away, was tricked by the profile to thinking Khonshu has decided to choose him instead of his brother. So that's what is the motive behind his brother doing what he's doing here. But it looks like it's going to end with a Shadowland battle that I need to read that omnibus to figure out all what's going on. At the end here, we do have some bonus material. Moon Knight #1 sketch variant by David Finch, a bloody variant. Mike Diodato did this, the Dust Jacket cover. Then we have the Alex Ross cover and the negative variant. Look at this David Finch with the rain. Tell me that's not Spawn, Batman type of artwork, right? But I love it. Looks great. Here's the cover of the regular Dust Jacket. This is for the director's cut. It does have a script in the back, some interior pencils and inks, interviews, and an afterword as well. Alright guys, and there we go for the overview. My final thoughts, it's definitely a street level book. It feels like you're reading Punisher, it feels like Daredevil, and those characters cross over, but it feels like a superhero book. You have Moon Knight fighting crime, jumping out of his Moon Knight playing, being a badass, and yeah, there is some of his multiple personality stuff, but it's not really like that's the main focus. It's more of Moon Knight dealing with being Mark Spector, dealing with being Jake Lockley, and dealing with Khonshu, with amazing art. I definitely enjoyed this. I highly recommend it. It's a fast read. Definitely gets the GemMint seal of approval, even though we're not doing that anymore. But let me know what you thought about the review. Let me know what you think about this run, and thanks for watching. Stay minty fresh. Peace.